Welcome back to 340 Paddler, and today I want to talk about hallucinations. We all see them during the race. Well, some see them more than others. Some of us believe we're being attacked by wild beavers, Gary. And there's a lot of things that happen to people out there. Some people believe they're being about to be consumed by a giant whirlpool. And incidentally, that's a real photo from the 2008 high water, or it was one of the high water years for the 340. Or you start seeing things like boats that are somehow trying to catch you, chase you, reap you, some might say. You might see mermaids. Tree people are very common. Fishermen. Naked people, don't ask. It was my first year. I didn't know. A lot of things happen to people while they're out there. So, when should you expect them? Well, what's happening is sort of sleep deprivation mixed with a couple of other issues. And generally, you're going to see them turning up after Cooper's Landing, sometime after about 40 hours, after around midnight, night 2, if you haven't slept. It could happen earlier or later. Most people, it'll happen night 2 or night 3. Some of us will see daytime hallucinations, which gets really freaky. Why do we see these things? Well, ultimately, it's a mix of sleep deprivation and the continuous physical effort that we're putting forth. So your brain basically is trying so desperately to shut down that it's going to start messing with our reality to force us to stop. So one of the things that you see people do is they will try and hit the caffeine, a Red Bull, etc. Take it from someone who's done this before. Caffeine will fix hallucinations once. As soon as you crash off that caffeine, the hallucinations will be 10 times worse than they were before. And the caffeine will not work a second time. So just take that into account. A lot of people, a lot of veterans will not use caffeine or will save it until the last possible minute. We're talking past Klondike night 2 sort of thing. What are the solutions? Well, the obvious solution, of course, is sleep. And I should point out, while I've had a lot of visual hallucinations on the race, both daytime and nighttime, mostly nighttime, if I get auditory hallucinations, you start hearing things, that's usually a point where I say, you know what? I need to stop and sleep. And even 20 minutes might be enough to just clear that up. Now, what if you're on the water? What if you're 4 hours out of the nearest stop? Well, there's a couple of things you can do. First, you can paddle with a partner. Conversation can definitely be helpful. And let the partner know. The weird thing about hallucinations is you will be fully aware that what you're seeing isn't real or isn't right. You'll be fully conscious of it. So mention it to your partner. Compare hallucinations. Keep that conversation going because you don't want to end up in a situation where you're falling asleep in your boat or whatever else could happen and have it happen when you're completely on your own. So, if possible, paddle with someone. Secondly, there's what are called grounding techniques. And this is getting into a little bit of psychology, but one of the things you can do is say you're seeing the tree people, murals up on the cliffs, all sorts of things, toddlers on Scott Reeves' pedal boat, which I saw last year. What you can do is two different things. First of all, start focusing on only those things that you know are real. So in other words, you stop looking at the trees as much as possible. You stop looking at Scott Reeves' pedal boat as much as possible. Secondly, you focus on those things that are real. So use all the senses you can to verify the reality of the things important to you. For example, focus on how the paddle feels in your hands. If necessary, smell the paddle or use as many senses as possible. Hear it splashing through the water, touch the boat to know that it's real, etc. This is called grounding, and it reminds you of things that are real so that hopefully your brain can kind of snap back for long enough for you to stop somewhere or long enough to hit St. Charles. There are certain things you don't want to do. For example, if you're already unsteady, etc., don't reach for the water. You might take a swim. And focus only on those things that you can touch, smell. Don't taste anything. At this point in the race, you really shouldn't put your tongue on anything that isn't coming out of a prepackaged wrapper. But you get the idea. Use as many senses as possible. Tap on the boat so that you can hear it. Smell the boat, which will be horrible, but at least it will give you something concrete. And that should at least get you to the next point where you can stop and sleep for a couple minutes. This is 340 Paddler reminding you to keep your paddle in the water.